Well, hello. Time for a movie review, right? Let's get into it. Joker 2 has come out. Joker Folie À Deux. Dos Amigos has come out, and to much critique, I believe. And so I figured I'd throw my critique in the lot, because it's varies different. It's very different than the others. I thought it was really good. I completely understand all the reviews that are out. I completely agree with them to the most part, but I think they are. I think most of them are being a hair harsh, to say the least. We're kind of all very harsh critics nowadays, though it seems a lot of movies don't. A lot of movies and games, all entertainment around is it's real cool to get trashed now. It seems. And I think that's the case with Joker 2 here in a little degree. But before we dive into the full review I've got, let's step back and go to the first movie, right? Joker 1, Joker, came out in 2019 and absolutely blew up, right? Everyone loved it. It was a massive hit, massive success all across the board, all across the world. It was super huge, super big, and really showed us this new version of Joker, right? That we had never seen before in this really dark and gritty world, and we love that, as comic book fans and as Batman fans, we've really dug into liking the dark, gritty world of Batman. Definitely shown off in some of the comics and shown off here and there in some new movies and animated series and whatnot. But it was great to have a whole new version. Definitely the actors. Joaquin Phoenix is fabulous, and it's all done very well, and we loved it. And I'll bring it up because I will point it out. The first movie had a budget of like $55 million. That's nothing nowadays. And opening weekend it made $95 million. So it almost doubled its costs on opening weekend alone. This is the first movie, still massive critical success, and everyone loved it. And we loved the psychologicalness and the society description and effects of it. It very much kind of put it on the nose of our own world, right? Of society and the psychological thought behind how our society is built, and how we, treat one another and all that jazz. That was kind of the purpose of the first movie, was to kind of very much hit it on the nose, hit it on the head with a giant hammer, if you will, about society and the problems we have, and what lengths, what happens when one person finally decides to stand up to society, right? That's kind of what I got out of the first movie, at least on a deep emotional scale. A troubled man, Joker. Arthur Fleck was this man who kind of society was completely against him. Everyone beat him up, blah blah blah. He was worthless. He was useless. He wasn't going to amount to anything, despite whether he thought he was or not. And then finally, what happens? He decides to stand up and basically starts a revolution. It takes one man to start a revolution, kind of thing. That whole jam. I'm not going to dive into the psychologicalness too much. It's a film review after all. We're not in psychology class. But that is kind of the purpose, and that really stuck. And it was very emotional and very on the nose of kind of, lots of real world problems. And it was really good, It was clearly really good. It did very well. It's made like 300 something $million now, worldwide. It was over $1 billion. It was the first R-rated movie to get $1 billion, wasn't it? I believe. Very, very rare group of movies now have made that. Definitely R-rated. So it absolutely blew up. And of course, a sequel will come, right? A lot of people said that the sequel was not necessary, and I kind of agree with that. We didn't really need a sequel. This movie was definitely a standalone. Joker 1 should have been a standalone piece, and it very much stood on its own. It didn't need any more detail. It didn't set anything else up. It was, solid on its own, and it was very much a piece of the time. And, however, as the world may see it, for whatever reason, there is a sequel now. Joker Folie À Deux. And, alone that, you could actually dive into, I wonder why there's a sequel, Warner Brothers and, publishers and shareholders and stuff. You see a movie that you give $55 million to and you make $1 billion off of it. Of course you're gonna want to go, well, let's ride this baby till it dries, right? And so I'm sure there was a lot of pressure on shareholders and Warner Brothers and publishers and all that to really make a sequel, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and it's making us loads of money, so you better be making a sequel, So I wonder if that was kind of the case where they didn't really want a sequel, but they were kind of forced into it. So that would kind of explain some of the, the second movie's not that great. But then again, if you get forced to make a sequel, you're going to try your best to make it as good as you can. And lots of risks were taken in this movie, I believe. And, let's get the bad stuff out of the way first, right? I agree with most of the reviews that are out there. They're harsh in the reviews because they take the few bad things. One, they don't even look at the good things, but two, they take the bad things and really, that's what ruins the whole movie for them. Lots of people say it's a very long, drawn out, boring movie, and yes, I agree. This sequel, Joker 2, so now I'm going to bring it back. The budget is $200 million. We've almost gotten 4 times as amount the budget for this movie. It's the same length. They're both closest to 2 hours, 20 hours. Oh, God. They're close to about 2 hours, and one has 4 times as much budget. So you're expecting a very big, bombastic thing. Obviously, it's been 5 years. Money changes. You've got some different actors now. Lady Gaga's in the sequel. Robert De Niro's in the first. How much money do they need? Whatever. You got to bring back Joaquin Phoenix. It's an ask to bring them back, so you offer more money, of course, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, Warner Brothers goes, well, we made $1 billion off the first one. We can give you loads of money, because if you make a sequel, it'll make $1 billion. Money's not really important, right? But it's obviously, you should look at it to a small degree, I think. But the sequel is very boringish for a movie that in the first movie, it was very much, you saw a lot of society influence in there of Gotham City. We got to see, Bruce Wayne and Thomas Wayne was mentioned. There was a lot of newspaper clippings in the first one that kind of gave you some ideas of the world. Arthur, obviously, he had a job, he had a home life, he went out and about on the subway, blah, blah, blah. He had the social workers that he went to, all that jazz. There was a lot of different, places and locations, and it was really a dive into the life of Joker for the first movie. And I think that's why we really loved it. This sequel has 2 settings, honestly. It's jail and a courtroom for 2 hours. And for a movie that should have been a continuation of the first one, honestly, this psychological dive into society and what a crazed man could do once he's pushed over the edge, and what that can do to a society, a revolution of this Joker sort of thing, is where I thought it was going to go, right? Obviously, the trailers had the courtroom and him in jail, and I honestly figured that would be about half the movie, if less, and then we were gonna get him out and the societal collapse of Gotham due to Joker and his revolution that he has started. But no, instead we literally get just a courtroom drama. I mean, we literally get Law and Order Joker version, honestly. And, 30 minutes go by, you're in the courtroom, and they're pleading Joker's insanity case. Another 30 minutes go by, you're still there. Another 30 minutes go by, and you're still there. And then the movie very much wraps up very quickly at the end, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But, Yeah, it was very slow, very drawn out. However, the musical numbers in it were fantastic, I felt. And I really enjoyed them. They very much, on an emotional level, they really hit and they very much paired up very well. I thought that was very well written, how they lined those up with the emotions and the psychological factor of Joker's character throughout the movie and all that. I thought that was very good, in my opinion. And some people hate it. It was not where it needed to be, and a lot of people think musicals are supposed to be this happy number tune. So like, why throw this into this dark, gritty, psychological world? But I think that was one of the very cool and unique risks to show that it is possible that we could have this kind of like musical happiness in this dark, twisted world. And that was the point. Most of the musicals are kind of in Joker's head. He fantasizes about these moments of his life in a musical format, and I really loved that. And it very much hit with me. I very much understood the emotional factor, and I was able to understand Joker more. Maybe I'm just as crazy as he is, but I enjoyed the inner reflect of Joker as a character, and that was the high focus of the movie, rather than focusing on the society and the revolution of Joker and the psychological effects of society on a man and all that. The whole movie was highly focused on who is Joker. Arthur Fleck is asking himself who he is. Is he Joker or is he Arthur? That's honestly the whole movie, and I don't think it needed to be. I think that was very much drawn out, 2 hours too long, like an hour and a half too long. That needed to be half the movie, and then the other half needed to get us back to society, and honestly, it didn't work out well. However, the acting and thematic elements and cinematic shots stay the same from the first movie. They're absolutely fantastic. They're glorious in every way. The Joker makeup, the costumes, everything was top notch, perfect, and the small bits of psychological turmoil and society collapse and society's effects on humans, whether it be Harley's character or Joker's character, was perfect. They stayed the same. However, it was just too little in the movie compared to what it needed to be. That was what the first movie was all about, was the psychological effect of society on a being. And this one we introduced Harley, and I thought we were gonna get something similar, but with the two of them now, and we didn't. We got Law and Order instead. So I understand why people are upset. However, it's not as bad as it seems, I think. I disagree with the ending. I really hated how kind of quickly it came to an end and the choices that were made in the ending. I won't spoil it, but I'm back and forth on it. The ending definitely went very fast, in my opinion. We spent practically 2 hours in a courtroom case, and then all of a sudden, kind of, it seemed like they were writing it and they go, oh, we need to end the movie like now, this is too long, and they just wrote something real quick to finish it off, to be like, crap, we gotta end this now. And I didn't like it. It seemed very rushed. It seemed very not what I would expect from a Joker, And we've had Joker around as a character and Batman around for decades, right? And so we all kind of go in expecting, like, we know Harley Quinn's gonna be in the movie. We knew Harvey Dent was in the movie, and you kind of expect this, like, oh, like Joker's gonna end up being on top, and then Batman's gonna show up and save the day. Harvey Dent's kind of like this good guy who turns into a bad guy. Harley Quinn gets tempted by Joker and turns into a bad guy. This is nothing like that. This is 100% a complete new, not even in a cinematic universe. We're really caught up in this like cinematic universe where it's like, where's Batman at the moment? Or like, how is Harvey Dent gonna get turned evil? How's he gonna get his face scarred? How's Joker gonna turn Harley against the world and all that? And we're expecting this kind of cinematic universe of like, oh, when's Joaquin Phoenix's Joker gonna show up in a Batman movie or something? And it's not that at all. I think that's kind of also why people are putting it down. It's not the Joker we expect. It's in a whole thing all off on its own. Not even in a multiverse. We've even touched on these multiverses things in cinematic universes. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker wouldn't even be in the multiverse. You can't find him. He's somewhere else entirely. He's in a galaxy far, far away where no multiverse can even touch him. It's so different, it's so new, and it's a complete reimagining of a universe of Batman. And I think that's fantastic, actually. I don't want to see any of that, and it definitely stands on its own. And it doesn't need that, and it was never, I don't think it was ever meant to kind of lead into, like, Batman showing up and saving the day and all that stuff. All the characters are very different from kind of what we've seen, and have a new look and creation to them. And I think that's a very big point that people need to realize, is that this was never meant to be some kind of cinematic universe or a new origin story for Joker and understanding of him. It was very much a hit on the nose of society and what it does to a person, and creates a Joker character, and it's able to do it in a Batman universe, rather than making a live action drama movie. You get to make this kind of fantasy world. And it was very fun, in my opinion. The ending, like I said, was decisive, to say the least, and to one degree, it makes sense. In taking it as a movie that's in a galaxy far, far away, that's not part of a cinematic universe that we're used to, a Joker versus Batman scenario kind of thing, it's understandable. To a deep psychological scale, it makes sense of, how in the first movie, we really rallied behind Joker. We understand he was a man that got left by the system and destroyed, and woke up and started a revolution against society, against the evil of society, and how dare you, you get what you fucking deserve, is the kind of catchphrase from the first movie. And he stands up against how society has treated him. And that doesn't really happen in the second movie. It's all just this courtroom thing. But then at the very end, they try to, tie that in. They're like, oh yeah, crap, forgot. We're all about society and psychological impact of that. And it kind of comes into a full circle where you realize that Joker is the bad guy. We can't actually agree with him. He's the bad guy. He does bad things. He kills people. He's evil. And it snapped back to that very quickly at the end, and if you didn't grasp it, the whole time you're rooting for Joker, right? That's the point of the movie, is to make this character lovable and enjoyable, and you attach to him emotionally due to all the troubles he's had. And I agree with that, and I liked that. And then it's this really harsh snap back to reality at the end, in my opinion, on a psychological scale of oh, that's fair. He is the bad guy. He is bad, and he realizes, and it makes choices at the end. I'm trying not to spoil it, but on that psychological scale, I understand the ending, and I don't think it's very bad in my case, as we get darker in the world here today. So yeah, I liked the movie. It definitely was slow and drawn out, but everything else was magnificent. And compared to the first one, it definitely wasn't as good. I expected the society psychological impacts, and we didn't really get that. And it was a Law and Order episode with Joker in it, and it seemed more of a comedy than a tragedy, which is the punchline of the first movie as well. But maybe this was all the point. At the end of the day, Joker's famous line is, "It's not about the money; it's about sending a message." And I think it sent that message. I don't know if everyone's gotten it yet or not. We expected this big, flashy movie, definitely with a $200 million budget, and it's not gonna make that much money, I don't think. But if you re-look at the movie, I think you'll enjoy it. If you definitely go into it expecting to dive in psychologically, a lot of people don't really expect that. They kind of want to, definitely when you have a Batman movie, you want to go in and have fun, entertaining Joker insanity factors, and it's really not. It's more of a very deep psychological dive into who is Joker, who is Arthur Fleck, and that takes away from the Batman side, you know, and I understand why people hate it, because we're kind of getting away from Batman and Joker, and we're going more towards this psychological thing. It very much reminded me of a Shutter Island movie. Shutter Island still had more action and was better, in my opinion, but you get where I'm going with it. It was this very much psychological understanding of who I am. There's a fantastic line in the movie of, you know, Joker saying, knock, knock, who's there? And he says, Arthur Fleck. And that's kind of like one of the big emotional hits to me in that movie. So yeah, that's all I got. If I had to rate the movie, sadly a 3 out of 5 probably. I'd on a really deep psychological level, like a 4 out of 5. The thematic elements, the acting, masterclass, you know, fabulous lighting, fabulous singing, fabulous everything, as always. But yikesly written and yikesly paced and very much against everything else. So sadly, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. First movie, like a 5 out of 5, of course, but that's it. That's all I got. Thank you. As the light comes and goes, I'm sure this film looks really dark now, but hey, that's Joker for you. All right, that's all I got.